What's up YouTube, JP here, and I've dusted off my old Xbox One because I've had a few comments and questions regarding the emulation performance on this console. Now you might have seen a recent video where I installed RetroArch and EtherSX2 on the Xbox Series S. If you missed it, click on the cards at the top right to go check that video out. So just before we jump in, I want to give a massive shout out to my channel members for their continued support. Right, on with the video. So let's kick off with some easy to emulation stuff, like Super Mario Bros. 3 on the NES. You're not going to have any problems at all with 8-bit, 16-bit systems like the NES, SNES, Mega Drive or Game Gear. No surprises there, we've been emulating these systems for absolutely years now. But the Xbox One does throw up a few surprises here and there, and we'll get to those in a bit. Let's move on to something a little bit more difficult. So here's South Park Rally on the PlayStation 1. Now even though we do get a few audio glitches here and there, the experience is playable, enjoyable and pretty smooth. And it's the same for Resident Evil, one of my favourite PS1 games. So we know emulating the PlayStation 1 is not an issue. So let's move on. So this is Power Stone 2 on the Sega Dreamcast. Now even though you do get a couple of audio glitches here and there and a few stutters, it's still very playable and an enjoyable experience. But you can't actually say that for every game on the Dreamcast. And that brings me on to our next Dreamcast game, Sega Rally 2. Now this game runs absolutely terrible. Not only you've got the audio glitches, but the whole thing seems like it's running in slow motion. It's unplayable, horrible experience, avoid at all costs. But then you'll come across other games like Aqua GT that run absolutely fine. So in conclusion, Dreamcast emulation on the Xbox One is pretty hit and miss. I guess you've just got to try the game yourself. Now this is where things get a little bit confusing, because emulation is never cut and dry. It's never a case of, oh, all the consoles before this year are going to run absolutely fine. Because look at Sega Rally on the Sega Saturn. We see worse performance here than we did on Sega Rally 2 on the Dreamcast. Doesn't make sense, right? But then again, we all know how much harder it is to emulate the Sega Saturn. So we're going to definitely take Sega Saturn off the list of consoles to emulate on your Xbox One. Moving on, let's take a look at some GameCube performance with Super Mario Kart Double Dash. Now this was really disappointing. I was really hoping that GameCube performance would be at least playable. Now you do notice audio issues and it feels like everything's in slow motion, and every now and then you'll get a few freeze frames. And unfortunately it's the same story for Super Smash Bros. Melee. So unfortunately we have to take GameCube off our list. At this rate there's not going to be much left. And unfortunately, as we move over to N64, we're beginning to see a bit of a pattern here. Now, I must admit, I didn't try any other N64 games. At this point, I was getting pretty frustrated with the performance. I honestly thought that the Xbox One would perform a lot better than it does. It's also worth mentioning that I haven't tried any emulation on the Xbox One X, as I just don't have that console to hand. And I guess it also shows the generation upgrade in performance going from the Xbox One to the Series S. So my final thoughts. If you want to do emulation on your Xbox One, stick to the older stuff. PlayStation 1 and all the old 8-bit and 16-bit. If you have your heart set on playing PlayStation 2, pretty much all of the Nintendo after the Super Nintendo, get yourself an Xbox Series S. If you want to see what the performance of emulation is like on the Xbox Series S, then click on the cards above and check out my other video. Right, I'm going to end the video here. If you enjoy my content, please like, subscribe and consider joining by becoming a member. I'm JP, you've been watching Alien Retro Gaming, and I'll catch you in the next one.